Dr. Harris, thanks for joining me this morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Tyler. I hope you're doing well today.
I'm doing good. The looks like the weather might be finally clearing up here in Wilmington, so hopefully that'll take us into a good weekend. But I got to tell you, a lot of people are going to be thinking about over the weekend what's going on up in Washington. And I know you have a press conference today dealing with this very topic, correct?
Actually, we had it yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yesterday at the Capitol in Raleigh.
And it was talking about what's going on up in D.C. with regards to governance, correct?
Right. It was really bringing back to the theme that has been central to our campaign and will be central going forward, and that is the whole issue of leadership.
Now, with regards to leadership, there has been a huge divide right now, between the houses, between the House, between the Senate, but also with regards to the Republican Party. Now, a lot of Republicans are kind of taking sides, and the chamber that specifically that you are running for, the Senate, has seemed to kind of take a different approach to what's going on in Washington. If you were up in Washington right now, and this issue was going on, where would you stand? I mean, do you think the Republicans should hold firm? Do you think that they should kind of go along with regards to what other senators have said? Let's get the government back open. Let's pass this debt ceiling, and then we'll talk about the budget. If you were up there right now, which side, I guess, would you be favoring?
Well, I think we've got to do a couple of things, Tyler. I think, one, I think Republicans have got to continue to hold firm. As I said in the news conference yesterday, that I'm convinced that history, when it records what we're living through right now, will place this government shutdown at the feet of Harry Reid and President Obama. They're going to have to own this shutdown because our House of Representatives has done what they were sent there to do. They sent over bill after bill that the President and Harry Reid stonewalled on. And really, they're even now have continued to pass appropriations bills, department by department, over to the U.S. Senate. And again, Harry Reid and the President have just sat on their hands and done nothing. And North Carolina's U.S. Senator Kay Hagan has certainly not been at the forefront calling for her party leadership to let's do what's right and take up some of these appropriations.
So, with regards to, the Republicans standing firm, now there have been a couple bills that have been put forward by the House. The first there was the complete defunding, and then it became the delay, and then it was with regards to the medical tax, with like maybe a short extension. Is there one that you favor over all the three? I mean, are you a complete defund guy? Do you think a delay is okay? I mean, would you be for that? If you were up there voting, what would it take for you to finally reopen the government?
Well, I think that we've got to, ultimately, as I've said all along, I think a few folks do fully understand just how dangerous the whole healthcare situation is with Obamacare, how dangerous that is to our economy, how dangerous it is to our future of ever really being able to get this government in order again. I do feel like we find ourselves now, between the CRs and the debt ceiling increase votes, we have an opportunity to sit down and work out really some meaningful solutions to our debt problem. I mean, that at the end of the day, Obamacare is just a huge part of adding to that debt problem. We've got taxes that are too high, and we've got to take over now the health care system by the government that's only going to run that deficit up. And I feel like we've got to stand firm until we can bring this president and bring the Democrats to the table and at least come up with some solutions that can deal with this debt. I mean, that's the thing that has the stranglehold on this American economy, I'm convinced, and nobody is showing leadership to do that.
Well, I 100% agree with you on that one, Dr. Harris, because I've been sort of promoting, Paul Ryan's really seems to be the only one that's really trying to say, hey, we got to do something about this debt. We got to do something about fixing the entitlement programs. We got to do something about fixing it. And I think Obamacare is important. But I think, as you pointed out, it is a part, but there are other parts that we need to be looking at as well. Now, of course, we've heard from the president, and he has said, listen, pass the debt ceiling. Pass the continuing resolution, and I'll sit down at the table. And I got to say, that seems like a lot of trust the president is making the Republicans put in his hands, that once we give up leverage, so to speak, by doing all the things that he wants, why would he then come to the table and deal with issues that we know are going to be unpopular with his party, like entitlement reform and debt reduction? I guess that's the question a lot of Republicans are asking.
Exactly, and I think that's the unfortunate part of having a president that is certainly not showing leadership, and I assume that that's why we find ourselves now looking at a very short-term, maybe even 6-week solution, just to see, does he actually come to the table, and does he actually sit down and come to some workable solutions that will attack the bigger problems.
And with regards to the debt problem, and of course entitlement reform, and looking at the bigger issues, the debt ceiling. We talked about how devastating the debt is, and I do believe that in the next 10 years this debt problem is going to get out of control. But I think as of right now we're okay, but we need to start talking about it, and we need to start doing something right now. But some are saying that if we let this debt ceiling, we go past October 17th. Now, I don't think that the far left, who says that the economy is going to collapse, are completely right. But I also don't think that if we pass that October 17th deadline, there's not going to be some negative impact on the economy. Where do you stand with regards to the debt ceiling and that deadline? Can we pass it safely without affecting the economy, devastatingly? Or do you think the Republicans need to do something with regards to the debt ceiling and maybe not opening the government?
Well, I think we're going to have to deal with the debt ceiling. I think that there's just too much volatility here to not deal with it. But I do think that there's some very thoughtful approaches. Before I would ever vote to increase the debt limit, I believe there would have to be a plan to reduce government spending, to lower taxes, and ultimately I'm not even opposed to making part of the deal that the American people are going to get the same waiver from Obamacare that's been granted to Kay Hagan and other members of Congress. And I think that if we can come up with some workable solutions, that we have to deal with the debt limit. And I think it's too volatile to play politics with. And that comes back to what I said earlier. We've got to tend to have leaders that will look at this thing from that 30,000-foot view and do what's right doing what's right above party politics and standing for God and country before we're going to stand for our next election.
Well, I do got to say it is refreshing to hear you talk about the bigger issue, because so often, I know Obamacare is a big issue, but the debt, to me, I've been talking about it on my show all week, is the real big issue that we need to be talking about. And there are people in Washington like Congressman Paul Ryan that are discussing it. And so I'm glad to see that potentially there could be someone else in Washington that would be open to having that discussion as well. Dr. Harris, I wanted to give you an opportunity to get your website out there so everyone can get in contact with you if they want to get involved.
Sure. We would love for them to go to our website. It's markharrisforsenate.com, and you can go there and gain some information. It's still in the development stages, but there's some information there now and a place where they can sign up to be contacted, and we would love to invite people to check us out.
All right. Well, Dr. Harris, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man, so thanks so much for coming on this morning.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Tyler. Thank you for having me.
All right, once again, Dr. Mark Harris, of course, senior pastor at the First Baptist Church in Charlotte, now a candidate for U.S. Senate here in North Carolina. Now, I want to give you a heads up. Just had Dr. Mark Harris on. On Monday, Speaker Tom Tillis will be on the show. We'll probably be talking about the exact same things. And then I'm going to try and set up Dr. Greg Brandon for Tuesday. So we're going to go back to back to back with regards to all those that are running for Senate here in North Carolina. Let's take a quick break. It's 8:17 on this October the 11th. I'm Tyler Cralle. This is 980 The Wave. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Tyler Cralle.
He ran a marathon backward once to see what second place looked like.
Losers! 980 The Wave.